Hello everyone, welcome to the second lesson in our language comparison series. In this video, we will study some more patterns and basic phrases in some of the most common languages of the Romance, Germanic and Nordic families. This time, however, we have swapped Afrikaans for Romanian to discover, compare and study this language from the Romance language family. Remember that knowing and remembering some patterns and similarities will give you more of a chance to 1. Learn and remember a new language more easily. 2. Identify an unfamiliar language. 3. Comprehend the meaning of a language even if you don't have any previous knowledge of it. Firstly, let's take a look at another 11 basic phrases in the three language families to see some similarities, and then we will compare them together so that you can see how easy it is to identify and remember those patterns and phrases in those languages. Let's take a look. Here is how to say excuse me. Note, there is more than one way to say excuse me in a language. It can be used as a polite apology in various ways, such as when attempting to get somebody's attention or asking for forgiveness for an offense. This version is to get somebody's attention. Let's take a look.
In English.
Excuse me.
French.
Excusez-moi.
Italian.
Scusi.
Spanish.
Desculpe.
Portuguese.
Com licença.
Romanian.
Pardon.
In German.
Entschuldigen Sie.
In Dutch.
Excuseer.
In Swedish.
Ursäkta mig.
Norwegian.
Unnskyld meg.
In Danish.
Undskyld.
Here is how to ask how much something costs by saying how much is it, or how much is this, that, or how much does it cost.
In English.
How much is it?
French.
Combien ça coûte?
Italian.
Quanto costa?
Spanish.
Quanto custa?
Portuguese.
Quanto custa?
Romanian.
Cât costă?
In German.
Wie viel kostet es?
In Dutch.
Hoeveel kost het?
In Swedish.
Vad kostar det?
Norwegian.
Hvor mye det?
In Danish.
Hvad koster det?
Here is how to ask where a place is in the languages. Then the place would come next.
In English.
Where is?
French.
Où est?
Italian.
Dov'è?
Spanish.
Donde sta?
Portuguese.
Onde é?
Romanian.
Unde este?
In German.
Wo ist?
In Dutch.
Waar is?
In Swedish.
Var ligger?
Norwegian.
Hvor
In Danish.
Hva
Here is how to say you're welcome. Note, this is similar to no problem. However, this is more of a standard polite response for when someone has done a favor for you.
In English.
You're welcome.
French.
Avec plaisir.
Italian.
Prego.
Spanish.
De nada.
Portuguese.
De nada.
Romanian.
Cu plăcere.
In German.
Bitte.
In Dutch.
Graag gedaan.
In Swedish.
Varsågod.
Norwegian.
Varsågod.
In Danish.
Velbekomme.
This is how to say no problem in the sense that they are telling you not to worry about the favor that they've done for you. Don't worry about it. Note, can you see in all the languages that they use the word problem in some way?
In English.
No problem.
French.
Aucun problème.
Italian.
Nessun problema.
Spanish.
No hay problema.
Portuguese.
Sem problemas.
Romanian.
Nicio problemă.
In German.
Kein Problem.
In Dutch.
Geen probleem.
In Swedish.
Inga problem.
Norwegian.
Ikke noe problem.
In Danish.
Ikke noget problem.
Here is how to say I am from and a place would come next. Note, this phrase generally means to come from and a city that you are from. some languages use a different way to mean a country.
In English.
I am from.
French.
Je viens de.
Italian.
Sono di.
Spanish.
Soy de.
Portuguese.
Eu sou de.
Romanian.
Sunt din.
In German.
Ich bin aus.
In Dutch.
Ik kom uit.
In Swedish.
Jag kommer från.
Norwegian.
Jeg er fra.
In Danish.
Jeg er fra.
Here's how to say nice to meet you or that it was a pleasure to meet someone.
In English,
Nice to meet you.
French,
Enchanté.
Italian,
Piacere.
Spanish,
Mucho gusto.
Portuguese,
Muito prazer.
Romanian.
Mă bucur să vă cunosc.
In German,
Schön Sie zu treffen.
in Dutch.
Aangenaam.
In Swedish,
Trevligt att träffas.
Norwegian,
Hyggelig å møte deg.
in Danish.
Rart at møde dig.
This is how to ask somebody to repeat what they have just said by saying, "Repeat it please," or "Could you repeat that? Can you repeat it?" Let's take a look.
In English.
Repeat it, please.
French.
Veuillez répéter s'il vous plaît.
Italian.
Ripeti, per favore.
Spanish.
Poderia repetir, por favor?
Portuguese.
Por favor, pode repetir?
Romanian.
Repetați, vă rog.
In German.
Wiederholen Sie bitte.
In Dutch.
Kunt u dit herhalen, alstublieft?
In Swedish.
Upprepa är du snäll.
Norwegian.
Gjenta det, er du snill.
In Danish.
Kan du gentage det?
Here's how to say that you speak a little bit of a language. Note that the language given in each example is the name of the language in that language.
In English,
I can speak a little bit of English.
French,
Je parle un peu le français.
Italian,
Parlo un po' di italiano.
Spanish,
Puedo hablar un poquito de español.
Portuguese,
Eu sei falar um pouquinho de português.
Romanian,
Vorbesc puțin limba română.
in German,
Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch.
in Dutch,
Ik spreek een klein beetje Nederlands.
in Swedish,
Jag kan prata lite svenska.
Norwegian,
Jeg kan snakke litt norsk.
in Danish.
Jeg kan tale litt dansk.
Here's how to say, "How do you say?" and a word or phrase in your own language would come next. For example, how do you say, "My name is," in Spanish would be, "Como se dice? My name is," in español.
In English.
How do you say in English?
French.
Comment dites-vous en français?
Italian.
Come si dice in italiano?
Spanish.
Como se dice en español?
Portuguese.
Como se diz em português?
Romanian.
Cum se spune în română?
In German.
Wie sagt man in Deutsch?
In Dutch.
Hoe zeg je in het Nederlands?
In Swedish.
Hur säger man på svenska?
Norwegian.
Hvordan sier du på norsk?
In Danish.
Hvordan sier man på dansk?
And finally, here is how to say, "What does," and a word in that language mean? For example, in French, what does enchanté mean? Que signifique enchanté? Note that in different languages, the phrase is structured differently than English. For example, in English we would write the word or phrase we need help with in the middle. What does and a word then mean and a question mark? And in other languages, they say the word or phrase last, like in French. Que signifique c'est la vie? What does c'est la vie mean?
In English,
What does mean?
French,
Que signifie
Italian,
Cosa significa?
Spanish,
Que significa?
Portuguese,
O que significa?
Romanian,
Ce înseamnă
in German,
Was bedeutet?
in Dutch,
Wat betekent?
in Swedish,
Vad betyder
Norwegian,
Hvad betyder?
in Danish.
Hvad betyder?
Now let's take a look at some phrases in the 11 languages and see what patterns and similarities that we can see. Firstly, let's start off with the Romance family. There are many ways to get somebody's attention in the Romance languages. However, they are all easy to remember as they seem quite similar to English. For example, the French version of excuse me, it seems very similar to English with
Excusez-moi.
Excuse me.
in Italian
Scusi.
is very easy to remember. You can also say mi scusi to sound even more closer to English. In Spanish,
Disculpe.
is the verb meaning to excuse, and perdonar is the verb meaning to pardon or forgive. However, using
Disculpe.
is the better version for asking for somebody's attention. In Portuguese, we say,
Com licença.
which I remember as the English word for license, like I am asking for permission to get somebody's attention with a license or permission. So,
Com licença.
permission to speak with you, or excuse me. The easiest one of the Romance languages to remember is probably Romanian, to ask for someone's attention by simply saying,
Pardon.
like, pardon in English, excuse me.
Pardon.
How much is it?
Can you see in the Romance languages the most common word in all of the languages? It would be
Coûte.
Costa.
Cuesta.
Costa.
Costa.
These words all come from the Latin verb constare, which simply means to cost. Then we have the adverb meaning how much, which are
Combien? Quanto?
Quanto.
Quanto?
Cât.
so to ask how much does it cost in the Romance languages would be
French,
Combien ça coûte?
Italian,
Quanto costa?
Spanish,
Quanto custa?
Portuguese,
Quanto custa?
Romanian.
Cât costă?
to ask where is a place in the Romance languages. We need to learn the adverb for where and the word for is, which would be
U.
in French,
Dove?
in Italian,
Donde?
in Spanish,
Onde?
in Portuguese, and
Unde?
in Romanian. Then the word for is or it is, and now putting all of it together, we can see and hear the similarities.
Where is?
Ue?
Dov'è?
Donde está? Onde é?
Unde este?
It's just a matter of remembering the similar words. To remember you're welcome in the Romance languages, we just have to remember that it is a pleasure helping someone, or it was nothing, with pleasure or nothing being the general idea. Can you see the word for pleasure in French and Romanian? They are.
Avec plaisir. Cu plăcere.
Then for Spanish and Portuguese, we literally have of nothing, or simply it's nothing.
Spanish,
De nada.
Portuguese,
De nada.
Learning and remembering no problem in all of the 11 languages is easy. They all share the common word for problem and a word that has a negative feeling which means no. Can you see and hear the similarities for the word problem in the Romance languages? They are
Problème.
Problema.
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 Problemo.
Then we have the word for no, or you have no, or without. Can you see
Sem problemas.
in Portuguese seems like censored problems, like they are blocked out or censored, or no problems.
Nice to meet you.
Can you see how easy it is in French to remember nice to meet you? It's
Enchanté.
which seems like the English enchanted. Just remember it is like you're feeling happy or enchanted to meet that person. So,
Enchanté.
nice to meet you. In Italian we have
Piacere.
which literally translates as pleasure, or it's a pleasure to meet you. Easy. Unfortunately, we have to learn and remember the rest, but can you notice that in Romanian there is a word said as
Cunosc.
which in Italian would seem like conoscere, meaning to know somebody. Can you see how learning one language can help you understand learning other languages in its family tree? So, using this same kind of method, without me knowing any Spanish or Portuguese, I can see that in Spanish,
mucho,
and
Muito.
in Portuguese seem similar. We remember in the previous lesson that these words meant very or a lot. So in this case with
Prazer.
in Portuguese, resembling the Italian,
Piacere.
maybe it means it's very much a pleasure or very pleased to meet you.
Oi, prazer.
Repeat it, please.
The key word to remember in this phrase is the verb repeat, which comes from Latin. Don't forget that the Romance family is the closest language family to Latin, so therefore the verbs are so important when breaking codes, patterns and problems in any Romance language. So, can you see the verb in these phrases meaning to repeat? It's here. Then, can you see the word for please? They are here. So now we get an idea that the phrase means please repeat.
Veuillez répéter s'il vous plaît.
Ripeti, per favore.
Poderia repetir, por favor? Por favor. Pode repetir?
Repetați, vă rog.
Do you remember how important verbs are in a language? The verb to speak in the Romance families are here. We have
Parler.
in French,
Parlare.
in Italian,
hablar,
in Spanish,
Falar.
in Portuguese, and
A vorbi.
in Romanian. Don't forget that we have to conjugate the verb to speak so that it means I talk or I speak when we use the verb to be able to or can and then the verb to speak to understand the phrase. I can speak a little bit of and then the language would be next. Can you notice the verb to say from Latin in all of these phrases? It's here. Then, can you see the question word for how in all of the languages? They go here at the start. They are
Comment? Come.
Como.
Como. Cum.
then the word for you, or literally one, would be
Vous.
Si. Se.
se,
and then the language would come at the end. This would literally mean how does one say or in and then the language. Next we add a phrase or a word in the middle in English to ask someone how to say a word or phrase in that language. Do you know that in English we say the word mean, which comes from West Germanic, but we also have a Latin version of the verb in English, which we know as signifies. If we use our knowledge of Latin verb signifies, we can identify the meaning of these phrases, which mean what does mean. The question word what goes at the start. We then add a word or phrase in the language that we are speaking in at the end of the phrases. Let's hear how to pronounce what does mean in the Romance languages.
In English.
What does mean?
French.
Que signifie?
Italian.
Cosa significa?
Spanish.
Que significa?
Portuguese.
O que significa?
Romanian.
Ce înseamnă?
Now let's take a look at the Germanic family. Do you know that many people think that Dutch is one of the closest languages to English? I suppose a good example would be the word excuse me with,
Excuseer.
whilst in German it would be.
Entschuldigen Sie.
Do you remember that the Latin verb to cost was constare? Well, did you know that in the three language families that we are studying all use the verb from Latin? In German and Dutch the verbs are
Kosten. Kosten.
and
kosten, kosten.
in Dutch. Now, can you remember in lesson 1 we learned how to say how are you in German? It was.
Wie geht's?
So if you remember how to say how are you in German, you probably remember the word for how in German was.
Wie.
Now that you know
Wie.
is how and
Kostet.
is cost, can you slowly identify that
Es.
might be similar to is in the Romance languages? And this phrase is most likely to mean how much does it cost?
Wie viel kostet es?
In Dutch,
Het,
which we also saw in lesson 1, means is.
kost.
Logically means cost, so
Hoeveel?
we can guess means how much. So how much does it cost would be.
Hoeveel kost het?
Can you see how similar German and Dutch are to English in this simple phrase that means
Where is? Wo ist?
Waar is?
Now we have learned another question word for our Germanic vocabulary memory bank. In German
Wo?
and
Waar?
in Dutch.
No problem. Kein Problem.
Geen probleem.
Again, can you see how two phrases here seem so similar to English? Now we have also learned a rough idea of how to make a phrase sound a little negative with
Kein.
in German and
Geen.
in Dutch. So, take notes. Do you remember I in the Germanic languages, which we studied in lesson 1? They were
Ich.
in German and
Ik.
in Dutch. In German
Ich bin aus.
means I am from, and in Dutch
Ik kom uit.
it feels more similar to English with
I come from.
Now that we know how Dutch is and this German phrase means I am from, we can remember
Ich bin.
meaning I am, and make other short phrases such as I am sad,
Ich bin.
Traurig.
I am a teacher,
Ich bin Lehrer.
I am English.
Ich bin.
Engländer.
In Dutch, I am is
Ik ben.
I am sad is
Ik ben.
Verdrietig.
I am happy,
Ik ben.
Blij.
and I am a teacher.
Ik ben leraar.
Do you remember the Germanic words for please from lesson 1? They were
Bitte.
in German,
Alstublieft.
in Dutch. Then if you know the verb to repeat in German as
Wiederholen.
and Dutch,
Herhalen.
can you see in Dutch how easy it is to recognize
Kunt u dit?
as can you it and the verb to repeat? So, can you repeat it and then the please?
Alstublieft.
So, can you repeat it please would be,
Kunt u dit herhalen, alstublieft?
then in German we have repeat,
Wiederholen.
Sie.
meaning you, and
Bitte.
please. So, can you repeat it please?
Wiederholen Sie bitte.
Do you remember I speak in German and Dutch that we studied in lesson 1? They were
Ich spreche.
in German and
Ik spreek.
in Dutch. Then we need to say a little and then a language. So a little or just a little bit would be
Ein bisschen.
in German and
Een klein beetje.
in Dutch. Then the name of the languages would come at the end. So to say I can speak a little bit of German would be
Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch.
and I can speak a little bit of Dutch.
Ik spreek een klein beetje Nederlands.
Now we have learned the phrases for a little, so try to remember them. Tip: it's a lot easier to remember phrases in foreign languages if you remember a sentence, not just a word. So if you can remember I speak just a little bit of Dutch in Dutch, then later you learn to make new phrases. For example, you learned I am sad in Dutch as
Ik ben.
Verdrietig.
so how would we say I am a little bit sad? It would be
Ik ben.
Een klein beetje.
Verdrietig.
great job. Using your knowledge from lesson 1, does the words
Hoe. Je. In. Het.
look familiar
Hoe zeg je in het Nederlands?
Hoe.
as how and
Je.
means you and
In. Het.
means in the. So how something you in the Netherlands. So we should figure out what
Zeg.
means say in Dutch. Therefore,
Hoe zeg je in het Nederlands?
how do you say in Dutch? It goes the same for in German, where we learned as
Wie
how and
sagt
say
man
means you.
In.
Deutsch?
In German, how do you say in German?
Wie sagt man in Deutsch?
Here's how to say
What does mean?
in German and Dutch.
Was bedeutet?
Wat betekent
The word to mean is
Bedeuten.
in German, and in Dutch it is.
Betekenen.
Can you notice the words for what in German and Dutch? In German
Was.
and in Dutch.
Wat.
If you have studied carefully in lesson 1 and 2, you should be able to recognize in German and Dutch some question words from the phrases that we have studied. Here they are.
How.
Wie.
Hoe.
What?
Was.
What?
Where? Wo?
Var?
Here are some more.
Who?
Wer.
Wie?
When?
Wann.
Wanneer?
Why? Warum?
Waarom?
Learning question words in any language can greatly help you understand the context of the phrase a lot more, so try to remember them. Now let's move on to the Scandinavian languages. Can you hear the close similarities in means of pronunciation between the three languages in the phrase that means excuse me?
Ursäkta mig.
Unnskyld meg. Unnskyld.
Another noticeable thing is to realize the word for me that we learned in lesson 1. They seem similar to English. Let's listen to how each language pronounces the word me.
Mig.
Mig?
Mig.
Can you notice the verb for cost in the Scandinavian languages? This will help you remember and identify the phrases from using English. They are
Kosta.
Koste?
Kosta.
also notice that the word
Det.
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 means it is or is it. Also, we can see the word for how much and how similar they are in three languages. How much is pronounced as the following: in Swedish,
Hur mycket?
in Norwegian,
Hvor mye?
in Danish,
Hvor meget?
How much is it?
in Swedish,
Vad kostar det?
in Norwegian,
Hvor mye det?
in Danish.
Hvad koster det?
Can you try to guess the word for where in the North Germanic languages? They are.
Var?
Hvor?
Hvor?
Then a word for is or is located is as followed.
Var ligger?
Hvor Hvor
Again, can you see visibly our words seem very similar to each other in their family language? Let's take a listen.
Varsågod. Varsågod.
Velbekomme.
Can you notice that
Velbekomme.
looks a little similar to the German word for welcome?
Velkommen.
Velbekomme.
Again, like most of the languages we have studied, here is the word for problem.
Problem. Problem.
Problem.
Then a word to make the sentence negative. These phrases mean no problem.
In Swedish.
Inga problem.
Norwegian.
Ikke noe problem.
In Danish.
Ikke noget problem.
Do you remember the words we learned in lesson 1 which mean I or I am? They are.
Jag.
Jeg?
Jeg.
Then we have the verb to come and the connecting, which is from.
Från.
Fra?
Fra.
Let's listen to all the words to see and hear the similarities and see how easy they are to identify by grouping them together as a family of languages.
Jag kommer från.
Jeg fra. Jeg fra.
Here's how to say, repeat it please. Let's take a look at the verb to repeat in the languages.
Upprepa.
Og gjenta.
Gentag.
However, now, did you notice that in Danish, the phrase goes straight to the point in asking someone to repeat it? Let's take a look at the words that highlight a sense of politeness, that mean please.
Du snäll?
Du snill?
And again, a word we have seen frequently.
Det.
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 Can you remember what it means? It means it. Easy.
Upprepa du snäll.
Gjenta det, du snill. Kan du gentage det?
In this phrase, do you remember the word for I? Now let's listen to all three languages pronounce can. And don't forget that in lesson 1 we learned that
Kan. Kan.
Kan.
seems like the English word for can. Then the verb to speak or to talk comes after. Let's listen.
Pratar.
Snakke.
Tale.
And then these words mean a little. In Swedish,
Lite.
in Norwegian,
Litt?
in Danish.
Lidt.
See how easy they seem to remember if you practice?
In Swedish.
Jag kan prata lite svenska.
Norwegian.
Jeg kan snakke litt norsk.
In Danish.
Jeg kan tale litt dansk.
How do you say in a North Germanic language? In Swedish?
Hur säger man på svenska?
In Norwegian?
Hvordan sier du på norsk?
And finally in Danish.
Hvordan siger man på dansk?
Again, here is the question word for how. In Swedish it is
Hur?
in Norwegian,
Hvordan?
and in Danish it is.
Hvordan?
Then to say is the verb. However, we have to conjugate the verb to mean you say or one says. And then at the end, let's listen how to pronounce the name of the language in their languages. In Swedish,
Svenska.
in Norwegian,
Norsk.
and finally in Danish.
Dansk.
Hur säger man på svenska?
Hvordan sier du på norsk? Hvordan siger man på dansk?
Here we have learned another question word that in this context means what does mean. They are.
Vad?
Hva?
Vad?
We have the word for what and a word which means to mean.
In Swedish.
Vad betyder?
Norwegian.
Hva betyr?
In Danish.
Hvad betyder?
Now let's review all the question words that we have learned from the North Germanic or Scandinavian languages and also a few more. Who, what, why, when, where and how. Who,
Vem?
Hvem?
Vem?
what,
Vad?
Hva?
Vad?
why,
Varför?
Hvorfor?
Varför?
when,
När?
Når?
Varnå?
where
Var?
Hvor?
Var?
and how.
Hur?
Hvordan?
Hvordan?
And now we have come to the end of the video. If you rewatched the last two lessons, you will start to remember and identify patterns and be able to identify a language from their tone of voice or accent, their spelling styles and grammar. Use other languages to help break problems you might be in. And don't forget that practice makes perfect. Please leave a like on this video to show your appreciation for the time and passion put into making this series. Comment with your thoughts, questions and comments. And please don't forget to subscribe to find more great future videos about languages in the future. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch lesson 1 and 2 as a whole lesson, that will be uploaded to our YouTube channel soon. As always, thanks for watching guys and see you soon.